Okay, hello. I'm here. I managed to post the wheel that I'm going to be using in the description of the stream already, so that's already there. There we go. Yeah, so I had fun doing this yesterday and thought I would do it again today. I can hear myself quietly in the background. 1 second. Yeah, so yeah, I found yesterday pretty fun. I'll just go over what we did. So essentially I have a wheel that was 193 different Bleach combatants. Bleach, we're mostly focusing, I'm coming from an anime perspective here, and we're just going to chill out for maybe about an hour and spin the wheel. I'll show you my wheel here. I have about 194 combatants now because I added Ichinose. So I'm currently on my third watch through of Bleach. I'm halfway through the YOURUHARA saga. So we have here basically all the characters that we see fighting. And so not every single character, but all the characters that we see fighting in the Bleach anime. That includes the movies, that includes the filler arcs. I did not include like standalone filler episodes, so like we're not gonna get Wolfman Hitsugaya in here like the Halloween special, but we do have all the 4 major filler arcs. Now we don't have the 1000-year Blood Warfare characters because I've not seen that yet, and we don't have the Fullbringer characters because I watched the Fullbringer arc once when I was like 14 and I didn't even finish it. So again, I said I'm rewatching it now, so maybe in a few weeks when I've watched the Fullbringer arc, I can include those guys. But for now, we're doing the Agent of the Shimigami arc, the Soul Society arc, and the entirety of the YOURUHARA saga. So everything up until Aizen's defeat, and then also the Reigai arc that comes after that, as well as all the movies and stuff. So yesterday we did about 5 fights and we went over an hour, so I'll probably be aiming for 4 to 5 fights, it depends. So that's basically the introduction, and again, coming at this from an anime perspective. Yep. So let's get to it. Let's get to this and spin the wheel for the first time just to see what's going on. And here I am. So our first combatant is Senna. Nice. So that is the pardon me. What is the name? What is she again? She is the, not Jinchuriki. That's Naruto. She is the I can't remember the term, but she's from the first Bleach movie, Memories of Nobody, Memories of No One, and let me see if I can get the technical term, because I have Ukutaki's voice in my head saying she's the Shinenju. That's it. She is the Shinenju, which is a person whose memories, basically lost souls in the cycle of rebirth. Sometimes there's an issue where a lost soul dissipates and the memories are lost, and then all those lost souls and lost memories form into one person, and that is Senna. So she's a soul reaper, but she has a bunch of memories that are conflicting, and she has a Zanpakuto, probably of the dominant soul. A bit like a Gillian turning into an Adhuches, but it's humans instead of hollows. So yeah. Cool. So let's see who she's gonna be fighting. Sorry, I lost myself there. So Senna versus ooh, okay, Ugaki. So Ugaki is the Bount from the Bount arc that uses like cards, like tarot cards, sort of. He does like this ritual, and he has like a card of like a shadowy monster, and the shadowy monster will be summoned. He has a card of like a sand trap or something. So yeah, this is an interesting one. Again, this is my second time streaming, so I'm a little bit disorientated here, but we got it, we got it. So versus, we have fight 1, combatant number 1. This is from last time. It's not Aizen. It is Senna. And Senna, we have that autumn vibe. So let's put them a nice autumnal orange. And versus how do you spell his name again? Ugaki. That's it. Okay. And I'll put that in brackets so we know who we're talking about. Yeah, and we'll keep him red because he has an interesting outfit. It's like a fancy, schmancy. It's kind of like a a light business outfit. He has like a shirt and a red tie and stuff. Yeah, so Ugaki, as I remember it, he has. Well, I guess let's talk about Senna first. So she has a Zanpakuto toe that seems to be a wind-like Zanpakuto toe, and she like fights off the blanks, but the blanks as they appear tend to be pretty much cannon fodder. They manage to like grab Cone, and they can be pretty frightening, but otherwise she takes them on pretty easily, and she has a Shikai, so we can assume she is she has the power of a seated officer of some sort of thing like that. I think she has like a spear. Pretty sure it's a spear sort of thing. And then the rest of the movie, she pretty much plays the role of someone Ichigo needs to protect. There's a lot of slice of life stuff. She gets attacked by the antagonistic group, who nobody can remember the individual names of. They're very forgettable. But essentially, for the rest of the movie, she doesn't really do much combat. It's pretty much she fights the blanks. She does it effortlessly. She has a Shikai. So we're assuming she's probably a seated officer, maybe, I don't know, 4th or 5th seat. We don't know. But Ugaki is interesting because we see multiple seated officers and lieutenants assaulting the Bout hideout, and he manages to keep them away. But that is because he is on his own home turf. He is in a cave hiding out somewhere. Now, obviously, the combatants will do what they can to get themselves in their own element and have their own advantages. But, you know, it's not... I don't imagine this fight happening in, like, a plain, just, like, a random field or something. I imagine... Oh, it could be in the Soul Society, it could be in the human world. There's still obstacles to hide behind, there's things to utilize, right? But Ugaki needs a place to set up, and even though he's super powerful and he can summon very strong things, if Senna can actually get to Ugaki himself and disrupt the ritual or just kill him, because he seems pretty defenseless. He's like a mastermind. He's like... He can control an environment. He can set traps and stuff. Ideally, he wants you to be going through a maze and getting confused and lost anyway, and then he just like plays with you and, you know, catches you in traps. But on a 1v1 fight, if we have them standing right next to each other and I go, fight, Ugaki's just gonna get stabbed by Senna because he doesn't have his thing set up. So what we're gonna do here, I'm gonna give Ugaki the benefit of setup. He has a ritual set up. He's on top of a building, a random building in the Soul Society. Senna is there also, or the human world. Basically, he's on top of a building in a city. Senna needs to find Ugaki, but he's not like in a hidden bunker or anything. He's out in the open. She just doesn't quite know where he is. So Ugaki has these flying swarm things he would probably use to seek Senna out. They can then project light, and the shadow that they cast, Ugaki can summon axes and body parts of this giant beast. It looks like it's from Yu-Gi-Oh! But you can summon parts of that thing to attack from the shadows, as well as things like rope traps. Yeah, I remember like alive ropes grabbing people. And then if he really wants to push things up, he can summon the entire beast if he gets a big old shadow or something. So we're going to assume that he's going to send out the things to find her. They'll find Senna, they'll project a shadow. Senna can probably fend off the ropes by herself. She has a Shikai, she has enough spiritual pressure to break out of that. Now, getting hit by the partial summoning things, like the axe or the sword or whatever, that's going to damage Senna a lot. She doesn't seem too strong or bulky, but she seems very agile and nimble. Now, you do need good reaction to be able to jump away from your own shadow, but we see characters do that, like stronger characters like Aizen and Yamamoto, but we see characters and Stark dodging Shunsui's attacks from the shadows. So, and we see the lieutenants who are assaulting the Bount hideout being able to react but struggling a bit, but they were in a very enclosed space, and we're not having Ugaki have so much of an advantage here. So I imagine Senna could probably dodge things. If the big thing comes out, that would be a big issue, but otherwise, with Ugaki not in a bunker, I believe Senna could probably find him, seek him out. She seems to be pretty observant and interested in more subtle things, so I imagine she could probably find him out, find his spirit ribbon or whatever, and yeah, take him out. So I think Senna might get a few scuffs, a few cuts with the summoning thing. I don't think Ugaki could be able to get off the giant monster. I mean, if Senna gets trapped in an alleyway with that thing, maybe, but otherwise, I think Senna probably has it. But this is probably the closest one that we have. I would give the victory to Senna, though. And that's with giving Ugaki prep time and, you know, a decent location. So yeah, I'm kind of giving Ugaki the advantage, and I still think Senna would probably win there. It really depends on the situation for Ugaki. So that's the first fight over and done. Yeah, just gonna check the stream. Oh, yeah, wow, look at this. We had two views. Incredible. I don't know if that was me opening in a different tab, but that's funny. Yeah. Okay. Well, let's get these guys down. Oop. And let's do fight number 2. So, fight number 2. And if we get a really weird matchup or something that's kind of ridiculous, I'll probably just respin because it won't be interesting to talk about. Okay, so for our first combatant is Shigekuni Genryusa Yamamoto, the Captain Commander of the Gotei 13. And I do have 2 versions of him. I have regular, and then I have him with one arm. That in the original anime run, we only really get to see him fighting in the Reigai arc, but the Reigai arc is pretty good, and I think fairly accurate with its you know, use of characters. I mean, the ending is pretty crazy, but Kagorosa's just special. Yeah, so we have Yamamoto. Now this really has to be a strong character. If we have a really weak character, even if we have a pretty strong character, I'm gonna just re-roll. So we might have to do a few rolls here because Yamamoto is incredibly powerful. So let's see who he's up against. Noritora. Dang. Okay. Did we do this one? I was just watching Noritoro versus Nell this morning. I mean, Noritoro is pretty strong, but Kenpachi beats him. I really think if you wanted me to talk about Yamamoto versus Noitora, I would say Yamamoto would burn him, Noitora would get back up and be like, my hero is really strong. He'd go into his resurrection form, and then Yamamoto would cut him in half. So yeah, let's try and get someone stronger. We might have to do a few spins, but Yamamoto versus URUHARA Soul Society. I wouldn't really know what to talk about with that one. Let's try again. I mean, that could have been an interesting one. It's just, I don't... Oh, goodness me. Holy moly. Oh, okay. So here we have Ichigo Vasto Lorde mask. So it's not his Vasto Lorde form, but it's the 2-striped mask that we get. Sure, let's do that one. That's something I can talk about. So fight number 2. We have Yamamoto. Oops. Yamamoto versus Ichigo. I'm gonna use my extra text that I've decided to have a new edition, so I can add things on and format stuff. Yeah, and dark red fits the mask too, so let's do that. This is working nice. This is working good. Okay, so yeah, this is interesting because again, these two characters did fight. No, they didn't fight each other, but they were fighting alongside each other against Aizen at one point. Okay, stream's doing well. Yeah. So these two. So this is the Ichigo after the Ulquiorra fight with the 2 stripes. And not too long ago, Kubo actually revealed that if Ichigo's afraid of his power, he's afraid of what happened, you know, him dying and being taken control and killing Ulquiorra and stabbing Uryu and all that stuff, you know, sending Orihime flying, basically, yeah, dying, and then his hollow self being so incredibly powerful and dangerous and hurting his friends. He, once again, like the beginning of the Arrancar arc, is afraid of his powers. Before he became a Vizard, he was afraid of his powers, and White Zangetsu gave him a warning saying, hey, when you slip up, I'm gonna get you, I'm gonna take control of you. And it happened, and Ichigo's afraid of his power. If Ichigo was not afraid of his power, and he wasn't holding back, and he could accept his power, when he summons his mask after that fight, Kubo said that he would have, you know, the bug eyes and the 2 horns also, but he doesn't have the horns. So even though his mask is more powerful than his striped, his like the mask where there was stripes on half of his face, now he has the 2 lines going down over his eyes, a bit like Ulquiorra. He it's heavier. He mentions it's heavier and harder to use, but it's powerful. It has a great weight to it, so he's struggling to use it, but it is really powerful. If he was not afraid of his power and he accepted himself more, then it would be at least twice as powerful, because he's only really summoning a portion of his hollow powers. in his mask because he's afraid of the whole thing. Yeah. So this is but also to keep in mind, even though he's only summoning maybe half of his hollow powers, we see him use it against Yami with half his Shihakusho, which he in the next scene reveals with URUHARA that his Shihakusho, like how much of it is left, matches the power of his Bankai boost also. So if he has half of his mask power and then also half of his Bankai power, we can assume that even with half of his mask and his full Bankai, he would be stronger. Yamamoto, we see the Yamamoto pretty much stays the same from episode, in terms of strength, from episode 1 to episode, you know, until he gets his arm, he loses his arm against Aizen. But there's the bit where Yamamoto is like grabbing Aizen and wonder why Aizen stuff happens, and then he uses the Ikaso technique. Aizen barely gets damaged, but he retreats and looks a little scuffed up, and then Ichigo comes in with the mask and cuts him on his shoulder. Then we have the "I planned everything" speech from Aizen. So these two characters were pretty close to each other. So what would happen if instead of fighting Aizen, they decided to fight each other? Well, Yamamoto is incredibly strong, and the only reason why Ichigo might have a chance against Yamamoto, I mean, we see Yamamoto fighting a little bit, fighting against Jushiro and Shunsui, who are very, very experienced and powerful captains. And so I think Ichigo would be able to evade Yamamoto's attacks somewhat. He's really fast in his Vasto Lorde state, so he might even be a bit faster than Yamamoto. But Yamamoto is so cool and battle hardened. You know, he gets stabbed by Aizen and grabs Aizen's arm so much that his arm starts bleeding just because of that old man grip strength. So again, if Ichigo wants to stay back and fire Getsuga Tenshos, Yamamoto's fire can definitely just blast those things away. So Ichigo's going to have to try and find a hole in Yamamoto's defense, probably flash step behind and, you know, Getsuga Tensho. But Yamamoto has good Kido also. So I don't think this is a fight where Yama just and destroys Ichigo. Ichigo can probably evade him for a while, but there's no real way Ichigo can win. If he summoned his full hollow strength, his whole mask, then he could probably overwhelm Yamamoto and get some hits on, but with his partial mask and the fact that he struggles to use it for too long, I don't see him getting any more than maybe one good hit on Yamamoto, and Yamamoto can take a lot of good hits before he goes down. So yeah, goes to Yamamoto, but there's a little bit of a struggle, I would say. Not huge though. I mean, the reason why Yama's counting on Ichigo is because he's not under Aizen's hypnosis, which is the real hard counter. Yeah. So let's get rid of all this and get ready for fight number 3. Fight number 3! I'm in the groove now. So let's see who we got going for us. Combatant number 1 is Nozomi Soul Reaper Shikai. So Nozomi's the character from the Reigai arc who fuses with Kagarosa to become Oko, sorry. So we got Nozomi Shikai and Kon Ichigo. Fine, let's do it. Let's do this one. Sure. Come on. Okay, let's do it. Fine. Okay, fine. Let's do it. Okay, sure. Man, for a random generator, it really does get interesting matchups. So Kon in Ichigo's body is the character who actually finds Nozomi in the first place. And they do have squabbles when Kon is in the teddy bear form, the lion form. But it's kind of comedic. They don't actually properly fight. Now, I'll explain exactly what points in the story. Let's get a nice... Well, that kind of blends in with the background a little bit. Let's get a dark green. And then for Kon, let's get a bright... Let's get a bright... that doesn't... Sure. Okay. So this is Nozomi. Nozomi spends a bit of time just in like a Gigai form. Yeah, like in a Gigai form. She is she a mod soul? She's like a portion of Kagero. She's like a portion of Oko, who split his soul into 2 different mod souls, I think. Or Kagarosa. Yeah. I don't quite remember the details, but yeah, so she essentially she is treated like a Soul Reaper. She's in her Gigai for a while. Oh, human form. And I think we see her use... She at least manages to dodge some Kido from like Reigai, Izuru and Shuhei. I think she does actually fire back some medium level Hado back at them. So I think she can use Hado, she can use Kido, but this is her Shikai form. So this is when she gets her she gets into her Soul Reaper form and she learns her Shikai, and her power with her Shikai is actually pretty strong. It's a little bit like Hanataro's, but instead of healing and then giving off a really big blast wave, she can absorb attacks and fire them back. A bit like Nell, but Nell can only do it with Sero. Nozomi can do it with pretty much anything spiritual based, and they do this training thing where they have to actually like fire an attack at her that would kill her if she did not activate her Shikai and remember the name and fire it back. So yes. Now the issue with that is Kon in Ichigo's body. Kon is also a mod soul, and he is an enhanced leg strength model. So we see him jumping around, like he can jump over buildings. Now he is still in a human body, so long term that's gonna destroy the muscles. But you know, apparently, and maybe there's some spiritual energy being used, but apparently if a regular human contracted all of their muscles at once, they would be able to throw themselves across the room. So it's not too out of this world that Kon in Ichigo's body can jump like over buildings and stuff. Not that it's good for his body, but I'm sure there's some spiritual enhancement with the mod soul being inside a human body anyway. So yeah, and he fights hollows. He can fight regular hollows by kicking them. And we see that in a lot of the filler stuff and a little bit in the early Agent of the Shimigami arc. Yeah, so, and then we see stuff with the characterizers, how he fights them, fights hollows and stuff. But Kon doesn't have, this isn't, I guess I could add characterizer Kon, but that is more of a niche thing. But he doesn't really have a spiritual attack. So Nozomi's Shikai wouldn't work because he's a physical fighter. He basically just uses his enhanced physical abilities. A bit like what Aizen was claiming Ichigo did, that he discarded all of his spiritual energy for greatly improved physicality. Grip strength, throwing strength, leg strength, whatever. But with Kon that's actually true. So Nozomi can't use her Shikai ability when on anyone else, any like other Soul Reaper, that would be pretty major in this fight. Versus Cone, even though he's a lot weaker than, you know, your average lieutenant or seated officer even, he doesn't use spiritual based attacks, he uses physical ones, so Nozomi can't use the Shikai. Now Nozomi seems not super competent as a Soul Reaper. She is the powerful Shikai, but she doesn't even come across like a lieutenant. She definitely comes across as maybe third seat at best. I imagine she could probably beat up Hanataro. I imagine she could maybe square her off a bit with Yumichika, but she's very inexperienced. In fact, Cone probably has more fighting experience than Nozomi. So this is actually a much more even fight than it looks. So how I imagine this going, these guys can be kind of combative anyway. I can see them getting into a fight in the human world. So they fight and whatever, Cone's jumping around, avoiding Nozomi's strikes. If Cone can probably get a good kick on her. Yeah, I think Cone can probably get some good kicks on her, but if she gets annoyed and gets focused and kind of there's this idea that she has memory loss, but like she couldn't remember the name of her Shikai, but she knew she had one. If she gets beaten up a little bit, maybe her instincts can kick in a bit more, and she can get a bit more speedier and react to Cone better. So I think Cone would start off better in the fight, and then Nozomi would probably triumph over, just because she is a Soul Reaper and so has more durability and this and that. And also, if she really wanted to end the fight, she might be able to like hit Cone out of the body with. I guess you wouldn't have a Spirit Glove, but can you use your Zanpakuto to do that? Or would you have to go into Ichigo's mouth? I don't know. I think Nozomi would win, but she would because of her lack of experience and because she can't use her Shikai ability, I think she would struggle at the beginning of the fight and then turn it around. So I would give it to Nozomi, but I think it would start off as a pretty even fight. Yeah. So let's go to our fourth fight, sorry. And our first combatant is the Bakoto Assassins. So this is a group. This is a group 1 here. Yeah, group 1. If we get a good other combatant, I'll talk about it. If not, we'll take the second combatant, because this is sort of a tricky one, maybe. Rose Visored. I'll be honest, I don't think I can say much interesting about that fight. So let's keep Bakoto Assassins and let's spin again. Pesce! Let's talk about it. I have no idea what my conclusion is going to be. Yeah, I don't know what my conclusion is going to be, but let's talk about it. So, Pesce Gartia is one of Neliel to Odenschrank's Fracciones. And we only really get to see him when he is being his goofy self after the incident with Noritora. And then the Bakoto Assassins are Kukaku Kumois, the Kasumioji assassins that use the Bakoto. We see Ichigo fight them mostly at the beginning of the Shusuke Amagai arc. Yeah, mostly at the beginning of the Shusuke Amagai arc, and Ichigo does really well against them. He basically just beats them every single time, struggles with a few of the Bakoto abilities, but otherwise he does really good against them, and the only issue is like trying to get information out of them, which they won't give because they suicide instead. Sorry for that word, if that, but they essentially put themselves in situations where they die, instead of give up any information. So yeah, they're pretty hardcore. We also see Izuru fighting off Bakoto assassins, many of them with the standard like thin Bakoto blade. So there's like the regular one when they don't want to, they just want a horde of Bakotos, and they use like this thin blade that they can feed and just get, you know, a normal power boost. And then there's the Bakoto assassins that have like the special one, like the one that Hanzo uses to blind Ichigo to put him in the trance and whatever. And then there's the one that creates like stone walls. Well, we're just gonna assume it's a horde of Bakoto assassins with a regular Bakoto. Maybe let's say there's one of them that has one of the special Bakotos with like the wall, so they can create like spiritual pressure blasts that turn into rock, solidify into rock. Yeah, and we see that rock thing, like Ichigo blocks the blast and Rukia blocks the blast, and then it turns into rock, and then their swords are stuck, and they're kind of they're stuck in there. And I think Ichigo has to use Getsuga Tensho to get out, or to free his blade. Yeah. Now Pesce is basically a comic relief character. He helps out a little bit with his infinite slick that's not infinite against Saruchi Sandovich, which was Arrancar 105, former Sparta. And so he does that, and then I'm actually just watching the bit where he and Don DeChaka fight Xyalaparo, which, if I remember, he basically just pulls a sword from his loincloth, manages to cut Xyalaparo, and then they both use a Sero and combine their Seros, fire it at Xyalaparo, and Xyalaparo expertly and surgically splits them back apart, because they're not like properly fused, they're just kind of mixed together, and he can just pop them back apart, like pop them back apart and avoid the Sero blast completely. So they seem fairly strong in terms of the Sero. I mean, that's a combined Sero. So Pesce has a sword, he has infinite slick that is not quite infinite, and he has he can use a Sero, which probably has average attack power for like a Numeros Arrancar, although he was injured somehow with his mask being removed. And you know, originally if a Hollow's mask is removed, they become an Arrancar, but if an Arrancar's mask is removed, we don't actually properly know what that does, assuming it disrupts their spiritual energy. So I'm going to assume his Sero is a standard for a Numeros Arrancar, if not weaker. So he's fighting the Bakoto assassins, which Ichigo has no problem with when he's about low captain level in his Shikai. Izuru, third seat. Oh, sorry, no, Izuru's lieutenant. He has pretty much no issue fighting a giant horde of them. I mean, he does struggle a little bit, but he doesn't really get cut up at all. He just kind of a bit tiring of a fight. So Pesce could definitely, I mean, if he slicks everyone, the Bakoto assassins would be difficult because they're very agile and stuff, but you know, you can only really be agile if you can utilize friction. They're not really skilled enough to like stand in the air or do any flying or anything. So and Pesce can like explode the infinite slick everywhere. So if he basically slicks everything and the Bakoto assassins are really struggling to do much, that will mean they can't really attack him all at once. Maybe the guy with the sword, the stone Bakoto, can like come up and like break down and make a wall for the assassins to hop onto. But then they're kind of stuck there. So yeah, if Pesce uses Infinite Slick, then the wall Bakoto assassin would probably have to start constructing walls for and surfaces for the other assassins to attack Pesce with, which would give Pesce plenty of time to draw his sword, to fire Seros. And I guess it's kind of weird because we never see Pesce actually get attacked because he's more of a support character. And he usually just gives up. Oh, low battery. He usually just gives up or runs away before he gets into that sort of situation. And yeah, so I imagine Pesce could actually do, if he was serious about it, he could actually do pretty well against them. And, you know, assassins are a pretty serious threat, so if these assassins were after Nell or something, he would definitely fight. If they weren't, he would probably try running away for a little bit and Infinite Slick them. So I feel like Pesce is probably quite strong when he wants to be, and the Bokoto assassins are not exactly fodder. So I think Pesce would manage to slick them, maybe respond to the walls, maybe he gets his sword stuck there, but he can use Seros. But then the issue is these are Bakoto assassins, and so I think Pesce could get them down, but when they feed their Bakoto and get back up, like we see in the storming of the Kasumioji clan, where we have lieutenants and third seats attacking Bakoto assassins, and they get back up and they struggle with them a bit, but they don't really get injured. It's just a long fight. Pesce, if he had to face a bunch of Bakoto assassins that have fed and have you know, increased their spiritual energy, I think Pesce could actually get overwhelmed. He would find a way out. Like if they all dogpiled him, he'd use like his head pincers or something. I don't know. It's kind of weird to imagine Pesce like being in an actual fight and actually getting hurt and losing. So I think this is kind of an even fight here. I would give Pesce the advantage if he had the motivation to fight them. I think he would be able to injure them and defeat them until they feed their Bakotos and then rise again. Now, if there was no sword, one with one of the special Bakotos like this, the stone wall, I think he could use the Infinite Slick and have a better advantage. But I wanted a mix of the Bakoto assassins, so at least one special or elite Bakoto blade, and I think Pesce eventually would get overrun. So yeah, I definitely think this is probably the most even fight we've had so far. And I would give Pesce the advantage, but I think ultimately the Bakoto assassins would probably win out, but with heavy casualties. And if they're feeding their blades in the end, they won't really be able to accomplish much after that. So I would give it to Bakoto assassins slightly, but it would probably end up in mostly a tie, a stalemate. Yeah, but the slight edge to the assassins. Cool. Also, that was fight number 4. Sorry about that. That was fight 4. So let's do one more fight. Let's do our fight number 5. I've been going for 45 minutes, and I'm feeling pretty good. Just gonna have a sip of water. I think a couple of people have popped into my stream to check me out, and then they left. No worries. No worries. It's not for everyone. I appreciate people checking it out, though. I'm not a big watcher of live streams either. Okay, so we have Nell Baby. We have Baby Nell in her baby form. Versus... Oh, I probably haven't showed you this. Sorry. So I just spun Baby Nell on Loopy, but you weren't watching, and also I don't... Yeah, I don't know about that matchup, so let's do this again. So our first spin is... Kisuke URUHARA! Well, he's gonna win, isn't he? Who's he up against? Kaname Tozen from Turn Back the Pendulum. That's not a fair fight. Let's okay. Kaname, you're gonna have to fight Kisuke if I don't get someone better on this spin. This spin, come on. This spin, someone better. Noba, okay. Never mind. Let's do a third spin because I don't think either of those characters is gonna be interesting against Kisuke. Neither's Hiyori. Kisuke's very strong. He's just gonna wipe the floor with these guys. YOURUICHI, okay. Okay, that's an interesting one. Two friends, two buddies, took us a few spins, but I think that's a good one, so... Kisuke? URUHARA. Mr. Hat and Clogs. Versus YOURUICHI. Again, apologies if my spelling is awful. No, YOURUICHI matches a purple even though she wears red. So the interesting thing, obviously they've sparred before. We've seen them spar in their old training ground. And I think in the Turn Back the Pendulum arc. And they fight together too. They fight. They work together often. They fight Yami Largo together. Exchange a little bag of coins. They also fight Aizen, Chrysalis Aizen with Ishin. So these two are definitely two that are seen or shown as equal. YOURUICHI being the speedster, being incredibly fast, being the princess of the... Oh, well, she used to be the princess of the Shihoin clan, and the leader of the Punishment Force, as well as the captain of Squad 2. URUHARA was the captain of Squad 12 in the research development. So URUHARA's really the brains, and then YOURUICHI... I mean, she's the brawl. She's the brawl, but not the bulk. She's the incredible bulk. She is very agile, very speedy, and she uses Ho-Ho more, which in Bleach is hand-to-hand combat. URUHARA uses Kido and Zanjutsu more, so magic, like spells, and then swordplay. So two very different fighters that work well together, but what if they fought each other? Very interesting. Now, so URUHARA knows YOURUICHI pretty well, so probably has an idea of how to counter her. Now, URUHARA does a trick with Yami Largo, which Xylophoro also does, is he can counter spiritual-based attacks by analyzing them and then basically firing off the same power and energy and properties, but with a reverse spin. So if you imagine Yami fires a bala, URUHARA has analyzed the bala, he can fire a similar spiritual energy attack, but if the bala has like a clockwise rotation, URUHARA would do like an anti-clockwise or a clockwise if it was facing him. He would basically do that to cancel it out. So yeah, that attack won't work on him anymore, blah blah blah, yada yada. YOURUICHI also kind of shows to do something a little bit similar. When Soifun and YOURUICHI in the Soul Society arc are both using Shunpo, they launch at each other and YOURUICHI kind of puts her hand out and stops Soifun using what I can assume is the same technique that URUHARA uses in her hand. But then also it could just be Shunpo seems to have like a magnetic effect or some sort of connection with lightning. Like when they use it, sometimes like rocks float around them. So maybe she's just using that to stop Soifon in her tracks. So yeah. So Uruhara definitely can cancel out attacks if he manages to analyze them. He also knows Yoruichi pretty well. But again, it's sort of the same thing with not Senna and Kon, with Nozomi and Kon, is Yoruichi mostly uses physical attacks. Uruhara's arsenal, he has Benihime. Scream, Benihime! Sounds like a firework. He has kind of a little wizard attack, like a light version, a more condensed version of Getsuga Tensho. It's definitely more controlled and, you know, surgical. And he also has a shield a bit like Orihime's shield. Yeah. And it is a Kido type, and he's great at Kido. Yoruichi's good at Kido too, but again, her specialty is more hand-to-hand combat, flash step, and I keep forgetting the word for it. The lightning thing that I just mentioned like 3 times against Soifon. Yeah, maybe I'll remember. So again, an interesting matchup. What would happen? Again, I don't know Uruhara's Bankai. I know that happens in the. I think that might happen in the new arc, but I've not seen it. Yeah. So Uruhara again prepared, knows Yoruichi. It's just I'm sorry, I'm having a struggle to like start what I think the fight would do or how it would go. I suppose they would probably do a bit of sparring at first. I don't usually really get super into it at first. Uruhara has decent ho-ho and good flash step. Yoruichi would definitely surprise him. Not really surprise, but definitely get the jump on him with probably managing to outmaneuver him and deal some pretty tough blows. At the same time, Uruhara has good reaction. He could maybe swap his place with a portable Gigai, which I don't think Yoruichi would really be able to spot instantly. He can also shield. I'm pretty sure his shield would withstand a kick or two from Yoruichi. And then he'll probably be pressured enough to use his Shikai and his Scream Benihime thing at Yoruichi. Yoruichi could probably dodge it though. If Uruhara, and he would combine it with Kido, either like the net thing he uses on Aizen, or the you know, some Bakudo to lock Yoruichi down. Yoruichi could also respond with some Bakudo, but Uruhara is just way more proficient with that. So I can imagine Yoruichi maybe breaking out and Uruhara preparing other Kido, maybe more an offensive one that would make or force Yoruichi to use Shunpo. I remembered it. So Shunpo. So I think Uruhara could corner and pressure Yoruichi, probably catch her, and then start a full incantation before she breaks out, forcing her to use Shunko to negate Uruhara's big attack. And obviously that puts Yoruichi on the attack. She takes up a lot of energy, Shunko. Uruhara would struggle against Shunko. I definitely think Uruhara would probably have the upper hand so far, but with Shunko coming out, he would definitely having to be pulling all of his stops. Maybe, I mean, it is sort of Kido base. No, it is a Kido base. I don't think Danku would work against Shunpo, actually. Yeah, I don't think that would work. So he would definitely have to pull out all the stops, but he has the stops. He knows he can do Kido pretty casually in the 80s, and he can go into the 90s, I'm pretty sure. And we see him doing Kido combination attacks that, you know, create massive explosions, bigger than anything we see Shunko doing, but Shunko does have the speed. So I actually think this is kind of tough from here on out. Who would win? Yoruichi when she has activated Shunko, or Uruhara relying on his stronger Kido and hopefully trying to block? I imagine his shield would definitely protect him from Shunko, but it would shatter if Yoruichi hits it directly. It's just going to lessen the blow. Although, if I think Uruhara could survive long enough to analyze Shunko if he didn't already know it quite well, and then be able to counter Yoruichi in that way. And then I think he would probably be able to get her down, or you know, point his blade at her and kind of, I got you, caught you. Or if we do want to do like they're trying to kill each other, then I think Uruhara could probably get some hits off with Kido and his sword. So I do think it's a lot closer than I first thought, but I think Uruhara would win because he can just he can definitely push Yoruichi to Shunko, and then I think he would be able to survive long enough to he's got the defensive abilities, he's got the sealing abilities, he has the those things to be able to buy him time to analyze. And if he does get in a pinch, he can always use the Gigai or take a hit or two. He doesn't really like to take hits, but he can take some hits. Even if he gets disarmed, he has decent Ho-Ho and Kido to help him out. So I think Uruhara probably wins this one, but it would definitely escalate a lot. Yeah. And I'm just about to hit 1 hour, so let's make this actually really clean and try and hit the hour mark exactly. Thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful day. Nobody's here right now, but a few people did pop in, which didn't happen last time, so I'm really glad about that. Yeah, God loves you, and yeah. If you are watching this, archived, leave a comment, tell me what you thought, and I'd just love to hear back from you. Alright, gotta head out now. Peace out.